All right, so let's talk about this. This has been a year, a time, or whatever for things that need you, right? They need you to participate for them to be real. What am I talking about? So, the LGBTQ plus community is a community that is growing in not just numbers but letters. The LGBTTTIQ. Okay. Look, I don't know what all those stand for. I don't know if anybody in the LGBTQ community knows what all those stand for. And that is one community that is super vocal about acceptance and inclusion and all that good stuff. Okay. But they are adding all the letters and we're starting to run out. What are we going to do? Look, I get it. I get the idea and the push for equality. I struggle with seeing how me participating is equality, though. Here's what I mean. You're expected to know what all those letters stand for by some people in that community. You're expected to know what the LGBT, all of it means. You're expected to respect people in that community, which, I mean, as people, we should respect each other, right? But you're also not allowed to make jokes about them. They are completely off the market. Can't make jokes about them. Can't discriminate in any kind of way against them. But other classes of people, other orientations, whatever, it's fine. But that is the number one, I would say, community right now. That's kind of pulling the reins. Okay, was it Dave Chappelle? I think, and understand this. And Dave Chappelle's the closer. I don't recall him ever saying anything disparaging about the LGBTQ community. He actually had a very, very good story about a friend that he made that was a trans sexual. And it was a very sad story if you watch it to the end. But he also criticized the community because of how they criticized him and they criticized others. And he talked about that, but he didn't put them down. He called them out. He called them out on what they were doing. And he did say this too in one of his specials that, if black people, I think, had go-go shorts, they would have had their rights a long time ago or something like that. And it's true. We've gone way of, focusing on individual groups of rights and equalities or whatever it is. And, LGBTQ is moving to the front of the line. I mean, God bless them. I hope the best for them. But in order for me to validate you, that's not equality. And that's where I really struggle with it. And understand, I grew up as a Christian, still a Christian, got plenty of lesbian, gay, bisexual friends, and I love them to death. Just had a party with some of them. And I'm, one of the only straight people there. But me and my wife we love those guys so much. But they don't expect me to participate in anything. But there are people in the community that say, you have to acknowledge that I am this, or you have to believe that even though I'm clearly a man, you have to believe that I'm a woman. And again, that's where I struggle. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Let's look at a couple of things.
Just because I may present more femme doesn't mean that I'm any less they, them.
All right, so this is talking about the pronouns and how you're supposed to participate.
That thing where you're eating a meal, but you're not really eating a meal. You're just kind of picking at food on the counter. My family and I were doing that one night, and I just kind of looked at them and said, hey guys, I'm non-binary. I don't have a gender.
In my opinion, gender is a universe. It is a broad spectrum of planets and stars and sky.
My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and that's a non-negotiable.
I think one of the main reasons pronouns are so important is because other than our name, it's one of the main ways that people identify and call us.
My pronouns are personally very important to me. Like, how guys do that whole that thing. I was so bad at that, and it just I felt very alienated. Coming into terms with my gender queer
doing that all the time.
Has been one of the most challenging but also rewarding things that I've done.
Laverne Cox kind of famously said, misgendering a trans person is an act of violence.
An act of violence
to
misgender.
Psychological violence. It's a denial of somebody's personhood and a complete refusal to acknowledge their identity, whether intentional or not.
And so it is something that is entirely wrapped around our everyday lives. So just walking into a restaurant and hearing someone say she, like, will happen within 2 seconds of me entering, which doesn't happen about any of my other identities. They're not going to be like, oh, you straight person. You know, like, that doesn't happen.
You know, oftentimes I'm in situations where I'm not the most safe.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move forward on this.
So many different options for who you are and how to define that. So when someone chooses a personal pronoun that they identify with, using that pronoun is a form of respect and a form of validation that, yes, this is your rightful identity, and I will respect that.
And not knowing how to combat it. It is constant, and it is such a prevalent part of our society that being misgendered happens countless times in a day, and that builds up really quickly, and it can really be difficult for a person to hear over and over again because it invalidates your identity over and over and over again.
And I also don't like that people call them their preferred pronouns, because it's also not a preference. It's who they are. You need to use those pronouns. It's literally an extension of my arm or my leg. It's just as a part of me as a vital organ. My identity, although you can't see it, still needs to be validated just as much as you would validate the fact that I have 5 fingers or 5 toes.
All right, so I jumped around there a little bit. So let's talk about a couple of things there. The validation part. So it's like you have to get the vaccine for it to work for me, right? Or you have to believe and call me, you have to believe I'm this gender and call me these pronouns in order for me to feel like it's real, for it to be real. Okay. There's a huge disconnect there. Like, I'm all about you transitioning. I'm not transphobic or homophobic or anything. If a man wants to have surgery to be a woman, go for it. You can have surgery to be a woman, but you'll always be a man who had surgery to be a woman. Nothing biologically is going to make you a woman. That's just the truth. And I know people are getting banned for stuff like that or canceled for stuff like that. And nothing biologically changes to make you another, gender or sex. I know people are interchanging them. And I think the biggest obstacle that is facing acceptance or inclusion a little bit more in, people that don't understand all that is this whole idea that it's being forced on you. Like, you have to believe this, you have to accept that. Otherwise I didn't really transition. I'm not really this. I put it in your hands to validate me. And unfortunately, that's a terrible way to live. And unfortunately, that's a terrible thing to rely on, because some people are never going to validate you. People will never validate you. If you're straight, people definitely don't validate, hey, you over there with the 5 fingers, come on over here. Okay. So some of that's just reaching. Okay. But I digress. Okay. I don't want to get canceled on my first show here. So they're looking for validation, and we want to give that to them, for what is valid. And I think a lot of people would argue that a man is a man, as a woman is a woman. And anything that's not that is an abnormality, right? It's not saying that it doesn't exist. There are abnormalities out there. But if and you can see it on plenty of videos and hear plenty of people talking about it. But if a man goes to a hospital with certain pains in certain areas, but tells the doctor that they're a woman, they're going to be looking for different things. They're going to be looking to diagnose it with different diseases and stuff. So being honest and being who we are and who we were created, whether you believe in creation or whatever, look, we are what we are. Now, if you want to dress feminine or dress masculine, I think that's fine. Okay. If you want to have the transition, I think that's fine. But I think it's really important to understand that biologically, we are still what we were born as. And that's not me being hateful, right? That's just me saying, number one, that's healthy for, especially with conversations with a doctor or a medical professional about anything really. And 2, it doesn't need validation from somebody. You are who you are, regardless of what I think or anybody else thinks. So constantly seeking validation is pretty much pointless for anything. Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip from the Morning Mayhem. Remember, this is just a portion of the full show that comes out every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you hadn't already, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the full shows or these tasty little nuggets.